Hi, I'm Adam Summer. You're listening to the Yerushalmi Talk podcast with the support of the Yeshivat Javar Yerushalayim in Har Nof, Jerusalem.
This is Peah, chapter 8, Halacha 2. Now we're going to talk about the Am Haaretz and a lot of details about the Am Haaretzim. So normally an Am Haaretz, who's an unlearned, ignorant person, is not going to be trusted about produce, whether it's been properly tithed or not. Okay, and there's a lot of problems with the Am Haaretz for what's tamei and tahor, and also whether it's tithed right. It's just a big headache. So the Mishnah teaches that under certain circumstances, an Am Haaretz is going to be believed to say that his produce is exempt from the tithing requirement. So normally, just a haver, who is somebody who either accepted upon themselves that he's meticulous in observing the tithing laws, or somebody who's actually a scholar, that they're going to be believed and they're not going to have a problem on it. But if you're buying the produce from an Am Haaretz, there's a problem because he can claim that it's been tithed properly, and you can't rely on it because a lot of ignorant people are not knowledgeable about how it works, and they're lax in the tithing produce, in tithing the produce. So what happens is there's a thing d'Rabbanan where the buyer is required to separate the tithes from that produce himself. So that, by the way, is going to be called demai, this questionable produce. So what happens is you're let's say you're going to an Am Haaretz guy at the shuk and you're not sure he tithed right. So what happens is d'Rabbanan, you have to tithe it. You're buying it, you have to tithe it. Normally, that's going to affect pricing, right? Because if you're going to a haver to go and to buy the produce, then you can trust it, and the pricing will be different because it's already been tithed. But now you could have a case where you have an Am Haaretz guy, and he says he tithed it, but you can't really tell. You're not really sure. He could be charging you as if he did, and he probably didn't do it right, or doesn't know how to do it, or how to handle it, and then you got to go tithe it again. So it could end up being kind of expensive to be buying from the Am Haaretz because you're required d'Rabbanan to go tithe it, because you can end up with a problem where you're eating food that's not tithed properly. So what's going on here where they can be believed? So the Mishnah says all poor people are believed with regard to leket, shkika, and peah during their season, and with regard to Maaser during its entire year. In other words, what it's saying is one is not required to tithe produce that a poor Am Haaretz claims to have obtained from one of these gifts. So everybody knows that Peah, shkika, leket, there's no tithing. So if you have a poor Am Haaretz who's saying that this is my leket, and he's selling you the leket, you don't have to tithe it. You can believe him on that. So even if you purchase the leket, you also still don't have to tithe it, because leket doesn't have to be tithed. So we know that Maaser has to be, it's the tithe of the poor, and we have to separate, that produce from the third and the sixth year of the 6-year tithing cycle, and that's given to poor people. And during the entire year in which that tithe applies, a poor Am Haaretz is believed if he says that some of this produce is Maaser and that it's exempt from tithing. So why would that be? Okay, so the Tosfot Anshe Shem says the following. He says that the reason a poor Am Haaretz is trusted with respect to Maaser for the entire year, and not just during the harvest season, as with leket, is because the landowners distribute Maaser from their homes to the poor throughout the year, and it is unlike leket and other gifts to the poor, which are collected from the fields only during the harvest season. So basically, you're saying that somebody who's the farmer already was in this loop and basically already took it out and now gave it. So we're assuming that this person who's the farmer did it right, and he's giving it to the poor person, and we're not relying on this poor Am Haaretz to figure out how to do it. That's why you can do the Maaser Rishon, because there's another guy who's in front of him handling it. Okay, he didn't come and collect the Maaser Rishon himself. There was somebody else who went and separated it, and perhaps that person knew about it. So you're creating a suffix there where, perhaps this other guy, the farmer, could have known about the laws, and we know that it's their responsibility to go and give those tithes. So, in the case of a double suffix, it's not anything. So that would be a case of a double suffix, right? Because, you have the Am Haaretz and you're not sure. And then you have this other guy ahead of him who's the farmer. Maybe he's a chaver, or maybe he's also an Am Haaretz, but he's giving the Maaser Rishon over. So then you have this chain of two. So that's a double suffix. So basically that'll be allowed. And that's the technical reason why that would be allowed. So now it's going to get into another thing. It says, and a Levi, even an Am Haaretz Levi, is believed always to say that his produce is Maaser Rishon, that he was given, and is thus exempt from tithing. And we're going to get into that because that's a really technical but interesting thing. It says from the Ansei Shem, Tosfot Ansei Shem, it says like this. It says, like any other Am Haaretz, an ignorant Levi is not trusted in his claim that he tithes his produce. But just as a poor Am Haaretz is believed to represent his produce as gifts for the poor, a Levi Am Haaretz is believed to represent his produce as Maaser Rishon, that he was given by someone else. Since Maaser Rishon is given to the Levi in all 6 years of the tithing cycle and is distributed throughout the year, the Levi Am Haaretz is believed throughout every year to represent his produce as Maaser Rishon. So the point is that there's another person in front of the Levi separating this out and giving it to him. And so again, you come up with this double suffix because maybe the Levi is an Am Haaretz, but maybe the guy who gave to the Levi is not an Am Haaretz and knows how to tithe it right. Even if that other guy tithed it and is also an Am Haaretz, we can't know that. So you have a double suffix here. And so because of a double suffix, it's going to be allowed, and that's why we believe it. Okay, so if a Levi Am Haaretz is saying, okay, my produce is Maaser Rishon and is exempt from tithing, we believe him because he himself is not separating out the tithing. Okay, we're not allowed to sit there with an Am Haaretz and trust his tithing. So the Mishnah concludes with a qualification of the previous rulings. It says, but they are believed only about something that is usual for people to act in that way. So basically what it's trying to say, and the Gemara is going to go and explain it later, but basically it's talking about his claim being consistent with common practice. Okay, that's really going to be the key. If you're going to see something really fishy, it's not common practice, then it falls into the category of, hey, you can't trust the Am Haaretz. So now the Gemara is going to get into this first part of the Mishnah's ruling, and it says, until where? In other words, how far away may the field be from a poor Am Haaretz to be believed that his produce originates from the gifts to the poor? So in other words, we're saying, okay, let's say he came and he collected Peah from a field, but wait a second, what if the fields are really far away? I mean, really far away. So how could this guy get all the way over there? And it seems kind of fishy that this guy already is claiming that he has leket, and there's no fields within miles of here. So how could it be, right? So basically what it's asking is until where? In other words, how close do the fields have to be for it to be reasonable enough where the Am Haaretz went out there and was able to reach it and collect it. And, it's not all the way over to the moon where it's unreasonable that he has leket because it was just too far to trundle, and he's poor, and maybe he doesn't have a wagon to load the stuff up on, and it's just far. The Gemara answers, says, Rabbi Hanina said, until a place where it is the manner to go and come back on that day. In other words, what they're trying to say is, if there's a field that's close, the poor Am Haaretz is believed to say that his produce was collected from the gifts left in the field and is not subject to tithes. And it's trying to say that, look, says the Pnei Moshe, that if you have a round-trip journey to the closest field where the gifts to the poor are available and it takes more than a day, he's not believed. And if it takes less than a day, he is believed for a round-trip journey. Okay? And, Mara Fulda says, it's unlikely that a poor person would gather these gifts from a field that was, round trip more than a day. And the Chazan Ish says in his commentary on Demai, chapter 10, halacha 3, that if all the fields in the vicinity have been cleared of the gifts of the poor, he is also no longer believed. So let's say, it's like a case in halacha 1 where the time of, has already passed, and the people have already left the field, and now he's coming and he's saying that, oh yeah, I have some of this leket too. Well, you'd say no, because they're picking this thing clean, and you've already come past the time of poor people, poor elderly to come. And so, you would just say that, you're playing a game because you don't want to, sell it where, you're having to take out tithes. And he's trying to get the extra added benefit of selling the produce while the tithes are still in it to make money off the tithes. Okay, you wouldn't believe him in that case. So the Gemara is going to talk about a related incident, and the incident occurred where Rebbe believed 5 brothers regarding 5 cores of wheat they claimed to have collected as gifts to the poor. Now, basically, this is an enormous amount, and the enormous amount is becoming as leket, shchita, and peah, and Rebbe believed each brother that he collected the core of wheat. So how could it be? And Gemara asks, but is it possible that so much grain could be collected from a field? And basically, Rebbe is saying, no, it's really not possible, but what would have happened was they would have gone to many fields, and they must have lived in an area where they were surrounded by many, many fields, and they were all within a day's journey round trip. So that, by the way, satisfies this rule by Rabbi Hanina, because let's say there's 5 fields all within, definitely within a day's journey there and back, okay, not more than that. And he's collecting a bit by bit, okay? So you're allowed to believe that he collected this amount over here on this day, and then the next day he went over here and he collected this amount over there on that field, or maybe he collected from each field he could have gone to would have taken a quarter of a day and a quarter of a day, and then he could have done 2 fields in one day, and then the next day he could have done 2 more fields. So in that case, Rebbe's really ruling in this consistent way that the Am Haaretz is believed because he's able to get to it, and the fields aren't considered to be too far. And the Gemara is gonna basically answer that they did not collect that much from a single field, but they went to many fields. But that basically what's implying is that each of these fields would have been close enough to satisfy this requirement about not being too far. Gemara reads, rather they gathered a little from here and a little from here, and it emerged as a core. So, the Gemara is basically answering that the poor Am Haaretz is believed to have collected such a large amount because his collection is not going to be limited to one field, and it could have been collected, by many fields in a full day. So we have, this possibility that, you can go to to many, many, many fields, even within the single day, and collect a very large amount, and we're going to believe him because of the way this halacha is structured. So now, before Maaser Ani gets separated, okay, and given to the poor, the owner has to separate Maaser Rishon from the produce, okay, and the Gemara is going to address why Maaser Ani of the poor Am Haaretz is not prohibited out of concern that the Maaser Rishon was not removed by the owner. So Rabbi Lazar from the south inquired of Rabbi Yossi, and there's always going to be a tension between the rabbis in the Yerushalmi Shas between the south and the north, and the scholarship of the rabbis in the north is always going to be superior to the rabbis of the south. That's going to be basically, the south is going to basically be the Jerusalem area, and the north is going to be the Tiberias area, or Sipori, that area in there. So Rabbi Lazar from the south inquired before Rabbi Yossi, shall we say that the Mishnah follows the view of Rabbi Eliezer? For Rabbi Eliezer says, one who is trusted regarding Maaser Sheni is trusted regarding Maaser Rishon. So basically what it's saying here is that, according to Mara Fulda, it's saying that the rabbis hold that only an Am Haaretz who is seen separating Maaser Rishon, which must be given to Levi, can be believed regarding Maaser Sheni, which he keeps himself, but not vice versa. So this ruling of the Mishnah is going to assume that the owner, before giving the Maaser Ani, first separated the Maaser Rishon, and that's going to be consistent with Rabbi Eliezer's ruling. So we have a dispute between Rabbi Eliezer and the rabbis, and Rabbi Eliezer, this is in a Tosefta and Maaser Sheni in chapter 3, halacha 15. Rabbi Eliezer is going to say that if we see an Am Haaretz separating Maaser Sheni, he's trusted to say that he has already separated the Maaser Rishon correctly. For although an Am Haaretz is not trusted when he claims to have tithed the produce, where we actually witness him separating one tithe, his reporting of further tithing is more credible. So the rabbis dispute that contention. They're disputing it. And they rule that one who was observed separating Maaser Sheni cannot be trusted with regard to Maaser Rishon. Nevertheless, they agree that one who is known to have separated Maaser Rishon may be trusted with regard to Maaser Sheni. The reasoning that the Gedolim of the Tanakama have is that it is more likely that an Am Haaretz would separate Maaser Sheni than Maaser Rishon, because Maaser Sheni remains the property of the owner, and it can be used by the owner when he goes to Jerusalem, but the Maaser Rishon has to be given to a Levi, and therefore an Am Haaretz who's seen separating just the Maaser Rishon, which has to be given away to someone else, the Levi, may certainly be believed regarding the Maaser Sheni, which he keeps for himself. But they say that if we see an Am Haaretz separating the Maaser Sheni, he cannot be believed in his claim that he already separated the Maaser Rishon, since Maaser Rishon involves a monetary loss. So we're concerned that he elected to separate only the Maaser Sheni, which he's allowed to keep, but not the Maaser Rishon, which he has to give away. So that's basically the subtext of what's going on here. The Gemara is going to answer this. Here's what it says. It says, Rabbi Yossi said, our Mishnah is possibly following everyone's opinion, for it is different in the case of our Mishnah, since a person will not perform the mitzvah of Maaser Ani with something sinful. Thus, all can agree that we may assume that the owner of the produce separated Maaser Rishon before giving Maaser Sheni. So, what's going on over here? So, in the earlier case, the owner separated Maaser Ani, and that's going to be grounds for us to assume that he also separated the Maaser Rishon, because he incurs a loss whenever he's removing the Maaser Rishon. And according to the rabbis, we can be certain that he's going to also separate another tithe where he's not going to have a loss. And over here now, okay, with the Maaser Ani, it's going to be a little different. Okay, so someone who fulfills the mitzvah of separating and giving the Maaser Ani to the poor will certainly not ruin his mitzvah by causing the poor person to eat untithed produce. And the Vilna Goan says about this. He says that the Gemara is addressing only the Mishnah's second ruling that a poor Am Haaretz is believed regarding Maaser Ani he received, and the Rabbi Yossi is responding that he may actually be trusted even according to the rabbis, because we can assume that a poor person is not going to degrade himself by claiming that he received gifts to the poor if it's not true. In other words, it's embarrassing. And he's not going to be lying about collecting Maaser Ani. Okay, that basically there's a thing of why would he be lying about being so poor that he had to collect the Maaser Ani, so that you're going to assume that the tithing was done outright. That's what the Vilna Goan is saying about how Rabbi Yossi is responding. So I want to finish that. It says that this Mishnah is teaching that a Levi Am Haaretz who claims that his produce was given to him as Maaser Rishon, now we're talking about the Maaser Rishon, is trusted during any year of the tithing cycle. However, it is forbidden to eat Maaser Rishon until Trumas Maaser, which is given to the Goan, is separated from it. So the Gemara is going to discuss whether the Levi Am Haaretz is believed now regarding the Truma Maaser. So he's believed on the Maaser Rishon, but now what about the Truma Maaser? Because he's not allowed to have benefit from the Maaser Rishon until the Truma Maaser is separated from it and given to the Goan. So Rabbi Lazar, in the name of Rabbi Hoshaya, said, just as a Yisrael is not suspected regarding Truma Gedola because it involves a penalty of death, so too a Levi is not suspected regarding Truma Maaser, which is also going to involve the penalty of death. So basically what it's trying to say is that a Levi Am Haaretz is trusted to say that he separated Trumas Maaser, because if he didn't take out that tithe, he's eating something that has the death penalty, and he has death from heaven. So, basically there's a big incentive for the Levi to not lie about it, because if he's eating tevel on it, he gets death from heaven. That's certainly a lot bigger than trying to make a couple of extra shekels on something that maybe it was tithe, maybe it was not tithe, and you're trying to get a couple extra shekels at it. But if the Levi comes and eats this, the Levi is going to get an early death from heaven, and certainly an Am Haaretz is going to know about that and really probably not want to do that or try that out. Probably the Am Haaretz isn't going to want to make that experiment and see what happens. So the Gemara is going to support this conclusion. Rabbi Hoshaya said the Mishnah stated so as well, and a Levi is believed always. And this indicates that a Levi is totally believed even when he says that he separated Truma Maaser from the Maaser Rishon. So basically, says Rabbi Kanievsky in his Beur series, he's saying that this implies that the Mishnah is that one who purchases such produce may consume it with no further action on his part. In other words, he doesn't need to take away tithes on it, the person who's purchasing this, because we have to assume that if the Levi got it wrong, then he's eating something that has a serious penalty. So we basically says the Pnei Moshe about this. He says that one who consumes Maaser Rishon, from which Maaser Trumas Maaser has not been separated is subject to the death at the hands of heaven. So we assume that the Levi Am Haaretz separated Truma Maaser from his Maaser Rishon because he doesn't want to have death from heaven, and that in a nutshell is going to be why. So now the Mishnah is going to talk about a Levi Am Haaretz in all the years of the tithing cycle. But now, the same question comes up. Well, what about in the Shvius year? Then what? So Rabbi Manna presented the following ruling, and a Levi is believed always, even in the year of Shvius, when there's no tithing requirement. So basically what that's saying is that, says the Rosh Cirilio, is saying that the words of the Mishnah, and a Levi is believed always, implies that when he states that it is Maaser, he is totally believed, and it indicates that he is believed even during the Shvius year if he claims that the produce is from an earlier year, and thus making it exempt from the Maaser requirement, and also exempt from the laws of Shvius, so that the Vilna Goan explains that since the Am Haaretz himself admits that it's not Shvius produce, we might have thought that he now is concerned that the produce is subject to tithing. So that would be the case. So basically he's saying that if you're buying it on the Shvius year, he's saying, no, I'm not selling Shvius produce. I'm selling this from the year earlier, and you don't need to take out tithes because I've already done it. And why would I have done it? Because if I'm eating, this produce that has the, Maaser Rishon left out for me to eat, and I didn't separate it, I get death from heaven because I'm eating tevel from my part. That's basically what's happening. In other words, let's say the Levi is selling part of it. Okay, he has to take out the Truma Maaser and the Maaser Rishon. Okay, let's say he doesn't take out the Maaser Rishon, or let's say he takes out. Well, let's say he just doesn't take out the Maaser Rishon. He sells the other part of it. Okay, fine. Well, the part that the Levi goes and eats, he gets punished, a serious punishment. So he's not going to do that. So he's going to separate out the Maaser Rishon and give that away to someone else, and because of that, he's gonna have clean produce. That's basically what it's trying to say. In other words, the punishment is so serious that even the Am Haaretz Levi is going to get this one right. So the Gemara is going to, and by the way, that's why it's picking on the Levi, because the Levi has the obligation to take out this tithe, and that's not with anyone else. It's just the Levi, and the issue there with the Levi is if the Levi doesn't do it, he is the one who gets death from heaven. So the Gemara is going to talk about the trustworthiness of a Levi Am Haaretz regarding the produce. And it says, Rabbi Ban Barhia said, a Levi Am Haaretz is believed to say that this produce was clearly tithed by the owner to exempt it even from Maaser Sheni, but a Levi who says it was given to me as Maaser Rishon without witnessing the actual separation, and a Levi who says that the produce is from his own crops and he personally separated out all the tithes, is not going to be believed. So that now is going to be a distinction that is going to require some help from the Meforshim. So let's take a look at that. So the Mara Fulda says that this is about where the owner separated the produce as Maaser Rishon. Now, there's no obligation to separate Maaser Sheni from Maaser Rishon. So we might have thought that the Levi's claim that the produce is Maaser Rishon is accepted only with regard to the Maaser Rishon, which in any case goes to the Levi. And in that case, he has no reason to lie, since if his produce was not Maaser Rishon, he could have separated the Maaser and kept it for himself without any loss. As far as exempting the produce from Maaser Sheni, however, he stands to gain with his claim that this is Maaser Rishon, for he exempts himself from the requirement of bringing Maaser Sheni to Jerusalem. And therefore, we would have thought that his assertion that this is Maaser Rishon and exempt from tithing is not accepted. And Rabbi Bun Barhia's therefore teaching, says the Chazan Ish, that his testimony is effective even with regard to exempting this produce from the obligation of Maaser Sheni. That's what the Chazan Ish says. Chazan Ish also asserts that since we are accepting his claim that this produce is Maaser Rishon, it is certainly not necessary to teach that it is exempt from Maaser Sheni. And he therefore suggests that the Levi's testimony may be needed regarding the remaining produce of the person who gave him the Maaser Rishon. And once we believe the Levi that the owner gave the Maaser, we may not apply the law learned above, that even according to the rabbis, one who is trusted regarding Maaser Rishon is trusted regarding Maaser Sheni. So once we accept that the Am Haaretz gave his Maaser Rishon to the Levi, we may assume that he separated the Maaser Sheni as well. And that's kind of what's happening. In other words, there's a Pnei Moshe about this. Although the Levi keeps the Maaser Rishon portion, he nevertheless is required to separate that tithe from his produce to remove its tevel status. And the Vilna Goan says about this, and he says that, in the first case, Levi, who claims that his produce was given to him as Maaser Rishon, he is not believed, since it was unusual to separate Maasros before the Levi arrived, and therefore the ruling of the Mishnah that a Levi is trusted to say that his produce is Maaser applies only when he claims that he actually witnessed the owner separating the Maaser. Otherwise, he's not trusted because his testimony contradicts common practice. And this gets back to the point of the Mishnah. Anything that's going to be contradicting common practice when you're talking to the Am Haaretz, you can't rely on it, because he's going to be saying so because he has an economic incentive there's an economic incentive there. And if he's saying it where it's done in an unusual way, this guy isn't learned. So he doesn't know exactly how the thing works. So once you see a deviation in the description of how he's talking about this occurring, you're not allowed to believe him because it's a deviation from the common practice. You're not allowed to believe in Am Haaretz when they deviate about a common practice on the way these things are done. So that testimony that the Levi gives basically is a not normal way to do it, and because it's a not normal way to do it, the ruling of this Mishnah is going to apply, and we're just not going to accept it. So the Gemara is going to support the next this ruling, and so it says that this is implicit in the ruling of the Mishnah. They are believed only about something that is usual for people to act in that way, which basically is going to imply that if you have the report of an Am Haaretz that's going to be done in a way that's not normal and not with the way of common practice, you're not going to accept it. But if it is done with described, the Levi's basically a witnessing to himself, and if he's going to describe a commonly done practice, and it's halachically sound, you can start to rely on it. But the Gemara is going to reject this proof about how this is to be interpreted. So, basically what this is going to get back to is about maestros. Basically what this is going to say is that since it is unusual to separate the maestros without the Levi present, he's not believed. Okay, nobody comes and separates this basically without giving it to the Levi there. And so what the Levi effectively described was that this was taken out and that the Levi came and picked it up later without even seeing this being done. He was just told by this other party, oh, this is the separation for it here. This is your Maaser Rishon, but he wasn't there to actually accept it and see it done. So how can you? That's an abnormal practice. So the Gemara is going to say like this. It's going to say what the Mishnah is saying is that they are believed only regarding something that is usual for people to give in that way. In other words, what the final words of the Mishnah are saying is it's saying that a poor Am Haaretz is believed to say that he received kernels of wheat from Maaser Ani, but not flour or bread, because people don't give the poor unprocessed grains. I'm sorry, the back then they would give poor people unprocessed grains. They wouldn't give them fine flour. They wouldn't give them bread. So now if the Levi is coming and saying, or the poor Am Haaretz is coming and saying, oh, this bread you don't have to, or this flour, if you make dough out of it, you don't need to take out tithes, because if it was leket and then you ground it up and then you made it into flour and you made it into a dough, you wouldn't have to take out challah because there's no tithes for this. It's always exempt from tithes. But that's not usual. Nobody gives you flour. Nobody gives you loaves of bread. So that's really saying that, the form of the produce that the Am Haaretz claims to receive is also something that's part of it. In other words, if the Am Haaretz is coming and also saying that it was given in this unusual form, that's also going to be enough to disqualify it, and where it's going to cause it not to be believed, because it's just not the usual way to do it. And that's the point. That's the point.